started yesterday, you wanted to at least have some fun out there today. A great start. It seemed to be the best out of anyone. Can you talk us through that and how the rest of the race developed from there?
Yeah, no, it was a good start. Fortunately, it was crazy because it didn't feel like a great getaway, but my line into turn one was really strong and well positioned and managed to get through people. But then after that, you're stuck behind everyone. There's only one line. It's very slippery. Lost the snaps. So very, very tricky.
There's very tough conditions out there today. You made a few places, obviously, and is Charles still saying there's a limitation within the car here, which is hard for you to properly, well, I suppose, fight the way you'd like to. So what's your appreciation after that sprint?
I enjoyed the race. It was tricky conditions. I moved forwards, which I had a really good start, and then after that, kind of the red flag kind of neutralized it because I think I had pretty decent pace up until then, and then kind of neutralized it a little bit. Everyone got fresh tires. It was just really difficult to overtake. But we do have problems with the balance of the car, and our top speed is really slow, so that's why we can't overtake. So we need to see how we can tackle that into qualifying.
What if I told you that what Lewis Hamilton said after the Brazil sprint could be the most honest and devastating phrase of his entire career? It was not just a complaint, nor a criticism, it was a public confession that made it clear that even a legend like him can feel completely defeated. Today we're going to analyze every word of that statement, the technical context that gave rise to it, and why this could be an alarming sign for Ferrari's future. Are you ready to find out what no one in the paddock dared to say out loud? He finished in 7th place, yes, but in Formula 1, table position often doesn't tell the whole story. What did was the way Hamilton faced the cameras after the event. Without that facade of diplomacy that is seen so much in the paddock. No rehearsed speeches. Only truth. He said, "Right now it's literally about having fun. It's not going well from my end my year. I just have to enjoy it wherever I am. That's all I can do." The phrase seemed simple, but it carried the weight of months of frustration, unmet expectations, and an adjustment more painful than anyone could have anticipated. It was a different Lewis. He did not speak from ego or anger. He spoke from fatigue. This public admission marked a before and after in his narrative with Ferrari. Until that moment, I had tried to project confidence, to ensure that the project was on the right track, and that the adaptation process was part of an inevitable evolution. But at Interlagos, something broke. That night a driver did not speak. A human being spoke who, after decades of success, finally verbalized something that few champions allow themselves to say, that it is no longer about winning but about enjoying. Because when a runner like him utters those words, we know he has crossed an internal line that changes everything. The phrase that ended up shaking the paddock was even more direct. The team thought we were much faster than we are. I gave everything I had, and that, ultimately, is what matters most. We are simply not fast enough. It was not a direct criticism of the team. It was something more dangerous. A revelation that exposed a disconnect between Ferrari's internal perception and the reality of the asphalt. What hurt wasn't losing, it was having believed they could compete, only to then face the humiliating truth that they were far away. And when a world champion with Hamilton's experience dares to say something like that, a silent tension sets in within the team that can fracture any project. This breaking point did not come out of nowhere. It is the result of multiple factors. Of a car that does not respond, of a new environment that requires continuous adaptation, of a technical structure that, despite its efforts, fails to provide the car it promised. But above all, from an internal pressure that only champions know. Because failure hurts differently when you have tried the top of the world. It all started on Friday, during sprint qualifying. Lewis Hamilton was eliminated in SQ2 and qualified 11th. At first glance, a lap ruined by yellow flags might seem like the main cause. But the reality, as often happens in F1, is much more complex. Telemetry confirmed that even if he had not lifted his foot upon seeing Charles Leclerc spin, his lap would not have been enough to move into SQ3. That fact revealed an uncomfortable truth. The SF25 simply didn't have the necessary pace. And this is where the fracture begins to be seen. Ferrari thought it had a competitive car. The team arrived at Interlagos with the expectation of being at least close to the McLarens and Mercedes, perhaps even standing up to Red Bull. But from the first meters it was clear that this perception did not coincide with reality. The SF25 was sensitive, not very predictable, especially unstable in the sections where the circuit requires dynamic weight transfer and aerodynamics that maintain balance in bumps and unevenness. The Interlagos circuit, with its uneven asphalt, multiple elevation changes and mixed radius curves, is one of the most brutal environments to evaluate the mechanical and aerodynamic quality of a car. For a car like the SF25, designed to operate in an extremely low window height to maximize ground effect, Interlagos is a nightmare. The need to increase the ride height to avoid violent impacts with the ground had devastating consequences. The downforce generated from the flat bottom was reduced. And with that, one of the few strengths that Ferrari seemed to have on flatter, more predictable circuits disappeared. The car could not generate consistent grip. He lost traction on exits, was erratic when braking, and showed a chronic lack of confidence when entering fast corners. For Hamilton, who relies on a precise front end to maximize his driving style, this behavior was like racing blindfolded. Each lap became a survival exercise more than a demonstration of rhythm. Even when he gained positions on the first lap of the sprint, the car did not allow him to sustain the comeback. It was like swimming against the current without support, without emotional or technical traction. Martin Brundle said it clearly in the broadcast: when a driver says the car feels good, but it is still slow, it is a red flag. It means that the driver has reached the ceiling of what he can get out of the car. There are no additional settings, no miracle settings. Just resignation. And that was exactly what Hamilton experienced. There was no room to push harder, nor talent to compensate for the structural limitations of the SF25. The problem was not an isolated accident or a bad classification. It was the repeated pattern of a car that demands perfection on circuits where perfection is impossible. The SF25, to perform at its best, needs ideal conditions. And when those conditions disappear, as at Interlagos, the entire Ferrari project falters. There is no strategy that will save it. There is no pilot to make up for it. And that is what makes this technical context even more serious. Because we're not just talking about a bad weekend. We are talking about a clear sign that Ferrari built a car that does not adapt, that does not forgive, and that pushes its drivers into a zone of constant discomfort. For Hamilton, that sprint wasn't just a loss on the track. It was confirmation that he is in a much deeper battle, that of transforming a car that, for now, drags him instead of propelling him. In the world of Formula One, a driver's public statements are not issued at random. They are carefully considered, sometimes diplomatic, other times codified, but always loaded with meaning. And when a driver of Lewis Hamilton's caliber drops phrases like, "We're just not fast enough," or "I've got to enjoy wherever I am," what we're witnessing is much more than a post-race comment. It is the clearest expression of a fractured season, the emotional reflection of a driver who is dealing with much more than a bad result. That statement in itself becomes the emotional summary of what his arrival at Ferrari has been like. And there is a key nuance in this transition, the transition from plural to singular, from speaking as a team to speaking as an individual. When Hamilton says that he gave everything he had, and that's what matters most, he is distancing himself from the collective idea of development. He is admitting that his effort for now collides with the car's structural limits. In essence, he is confessing that Ferrari has not fulfilled what it promised him. That change in tone is not trivial. In Formula One, where every public word has internal implications, such a statement can generate noise within the factory. Engineers may feel this as criticism, the strategists as a sign of rupture. But above all, fans read it as a cry for help, a confirmation that even a driver of Hamilton's enormous talent can't do it all alone. And then everything makes sense. The accumulated frustration, the lack of rhythm, the broken promises, the disconnection between the simulator and the track. Everything that has been said and what has not been said. Because if Hamilton, with his experience, his track record, and his determination, can't reverse Ferrari's fate in conditions like those at Interlagos, who could? That's why his brief radio comment after the elimination in qualifying, that, "Yeah, every time man becomes so powerful." It's not just momentary frustration. It is the condensation of an entire season of small accumulated defeats, of technical micro-decisions that did not work, of hopes that are diluted between simulator sessions and setups that do not translate to the circuit. It is, in short, the reflection of a driver who has not yet found the fertile ground to compete again. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.